What's up everybody, it's Kenjek, and I think it's time we talk about this brand new Mortal Kombat movie. Before we start, as a reminder, I have an interview with Lewis Tan, who is the protagonist of Mortal Kombat, and you can check that out on our page. I think the easiest way to talk about this movie is to start out with some context from the original Mortal Kombat from 1995. If you caught our podcast review of the original movie, I think a lot of our discussion kind of revolved around, is that movie a success or not? Because essentially, the movie is built for fans of the game, and in that sense, it was a success because a lot of the game fans loved it. It was like the first true adaptation of a video game to screen. It wasn't like the Mario and Luigi fucking disaster or anything like that. So, is that considered a success if the group you're appealing to loves it? Regardless of if you feel that way or not, I think that people who weren't fans of the game or people that just watched the movie subjectively speaking, or objectively speaking, that's the one, it's very easy to just note that it's not a perfect movie. It's not that good, it's pretty corny, it's pretty shitty, but at the same time, again, it appealed to the fan base they were shooting for. I saw a pretty interesting interview with the producer of the original Mortal Kombat movie, where their general thesis of making the movie, their motivation behind it was that they really liked the game, but they also wanted an opportunity to bring over some like wire fighting camera or martial arts movies from Hong Kong, which they had seen, but like noted, they don't have the production value of Western movies. So we wanted to bring that nonstop action over to the like Hollywood and give it a Hollywood-style production budget.
If you look at Hong Kong martial arts movies or action movies, the movies, frankly, in terms of our audience here, story, lighting, character development, are terrible. But the action is phenomenal. And I've always thought, how come we can't take that quality of action and put it into more of the kind of quality and look that we strive for here in Hollywood? That was the goal.
And to that end, the movie was definitely a success. Like, they got really cool action scenes, a lot of this new style wire fighting that, maybe didn't become super popularized until a few years later with The Matrix. But for the time, it looked pretty good. Special effects weren't horrible, and just it was no frills. The story was not important. It was mostly about the action and appealing to the fan base. So like the original, if you look at this new movie with the same perspective as the last one, you can consider it a success. No frills. They didn't really try to develop a storyline too heavily. It's just action, references, that's it. That said, this entertainment focused, blockbuster focused, fan forward approach, that doesn't necessarily protect it from me calling it objectively not that well made of a movie. Let's break it down into the acting versus the technical side of things. And on the acting side, I think all of the actors across the board were better than the actors in the original 95 Mortal Kombat. Really liked Lewis Tan. I think he was badass. Hiroyuki Sanada was really scary, like he is in basically every movie he's in. And Joe Taslim, who you might know from Warrior or The Raid, was an expertly done Sub-Zero. You could tell Lewis Tan had a lot of passion for this character. He performed all of his own stunts for Cole Young, and I think we mentioned it a little bit in our podcast review, but he was essentially like the vessel for the audience, right? Like, they don't have an insertion character in the original movie. Cole Young was that for us. We were supposed to kind of project ourselves onto Cole Young, since he's not the only one there that's not an existing property. I think he portrayed the chip on the shoulder feel really well, and I liked his real physicality that he lent to the role. The only real miscast I felt was Chin Han as Shang Tsung, because most of the other main serious characters were experienced martial artists, and that came across on screen. But with Chin Han, you get the sense, he's an actor, he's not a fighter. And while the performances were all fine, I do think a lot of the characters themselves are very underdeveloped, which I think you have to sort of forgive considering the genre and what type of movie it is, but at the same time, it's still annoying. I want to feel more for Cole Young. I want to be scared more by Sub-Zero and by Shang Tsung. And, I don't just want to have an overflow of Kano. And I think one thing that I picked up on when I watched it, and that I'm noticing a lot of people are annoyed by too, is that, Kano, very, very funny for the first 75-50% of his screen time, but then after that, it just becomes too much. And they rely too heavily on him to be the comic relief of the movie, and it gets annoying. On the technical side of things, I really liked how the movie looked and how the movie sounded. The soundtrack was really cool, and also I really just like how they incorporated this new style of martial arts with moves that we all know and love from the game. Again, this movie, if you consider it from the standpoint that it's built for fans, it's a success. And in that same line of thinking, the gore was great. That was one of the biggest complaints from, I think, pretty much everyone from the original movie, is that there was no gore. While there was plenty of gore in this one, and the fatalities all looked awesome. I think what it comes down to is that, my movie critic brain can't rate it much higher than 46 out of 100, which is what I gave it, but my fanboy brain really enjoyed it and found it very entertaining. Other than that, again, it's an entertaining movie. You can watch it right now on HBO Max, which is a big plus. But I would also highly recommend going to watch it in a theater, because that is one that is definitely built to be viewed on the big screen. It's a blockbuster entertainment movie. It deserves better than, watching on your crusty MacBook Pro. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Matt. Just kidding. I don't know if your name's Matt. but you're probably scared if your name is Matt. I definitely didn't steal that bit from Madden. Make sure to check out my interview with Louis Tanford because he was amazing. You know, he broke down the fight choreography. He just really comes off as a passionate dude for this subject, and I think it'll help your viewing experience whether you haven't watched it yet or you already watched it. I think you'll like the movie more. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that fun stuff too. I'm Ken Jack. See you next time.